The first story is an entitled People Story. Let me tell you about one of the most satisfying acts of revenge I ever took part in. It was back in 2011 when I was working in the private security field. I wasn't your average mall cop, mind you. I was part of a highly trained, skilled, and armed security team that specialized in providing protection for residential buildings and complexes that were very high-end. We're talking about buildings where people parked their $200,000 cars in the garage. Now, as you can probably imagine, these types of buildings are often frequented by entitled individuals who think the world revolves around them. You know the type: Karens and entitled teenagers who believe they can get away with anything. Fortunately, my boss was a former cop who understood the challenges we faced. His advice was simple but effective: be nice to the residents but don't take any crap from them. And if we didn't get at least 2 complaints a month about us not engaging with the residents enough, we weren't doing our jobs properly. Here's where things get interesting. Each supervisor in our company was in charge of managing 10 to 15 properties. Regular officers patrolled these areas, but we were responsible for things like attending town halls on security issues, updating patrols in areas that were problematic, and helping with evictions. In my case, I was in charge of 12 properties. One of the properties I was in charge of was an apartment complex that had a couple always calling us up. We had an emergency line open from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and every time they called, they would cry about their upstairs neighbor. They complained about everything: stomping, music, talking, cooking smells, and even their dog going number 1 on the balcony and it dripping onto theirs. These were valid complaints, of course, but we could never find any evidence to back them up. As we started questioning whether they were genuine, they switched tactics and started making racist comments about their Asian neighbors. The couple above them were a sweet and wonderful middle-aged Asian couple. The husband was an immigrant, but the wife was born and raised in America. These racists had only spoken to the husband, so they assumed that both of them were immigrants. They started making comments like, "Those Asians," and, "They are in America. Why can't they cook American food?" and, "I'm afraid to be in the parking garage when one of them is driving in it." While these comments made me angry, I knew they weren't enough to warrant an eviction. All I could do was have my officers put the exact phrasing in the report. I did ask the property manager about the comments, but she said that since the residents didn't complain about them, there wasn't much she could do. I decided to find a way to get them evicted. Not only were they lying to get a couple evicted, but they were also calling in false complaints and wasting the office's time to respond. They didn't call just once in a while, either. They called sometimes twice in one night and usually 5 to 8 times a week. A month later, an opportunity presented itself. The Asian couple called me during the day and informed me that they were going out of the country to China for 2 weeks, and no one would be in their apartment. They told me this just in case the other couple started complaining. I would know they were lying. They asked me to check their door once a night to make sure it was locked and not broken into. I informed the Asian couple not to tell their neighbor, but only to inform the property manager. At our next patrol meeting, I explained my plan to the officers. I wanted them to respond each time the neighbors called and write down exactly what they said happened and any racial terms they used, no matter how minor. I instructed them to mark the report as urgent and send it out through our online system for all business-related matters, including email, schedules, and report submissions. For the next 2 weeks, we documented every complaint made by the racist couple. They complained 18 times in total. Each complaint was carefully recorded with the exact time, date, who called, and apartment number. We even documented any racial terms they used, no matter how minor. The charges for emergency response were higher than for regular patrols, so their lies were costing money. After documenting all the complaints, I took the evidence to the property manager. She reviewed it and decided that we should evict them. Since there was no homeowners association, WA, because they were rentals, we held a meeting with me, the property manager, and the tenants. During these meetings, the charges for eviction are read out, and if the eviction is security-related, I explain what violations have been broken based on the reports. The tenants then have a right to speak and ask questions, after which the property manager decides what happens next, whether they stay or go. We sent the racist couple a formal letter stating that they were facing eviction and had 10 days to set up a meeting. If they did not comply, the eviction would be processed. They eventually set up a meeting, which I attended, along with the property manager and the couple. The wife immediately began to complain about me being armed. I politely informed her that it was my uniform and not her call to make. She tried to say she felt uncomfortable and wanted to reschedule, but the property manager insisted that the meeting happened now, or they would be evicted. These meetings were recorded by video for legal reasons, so the tenants couldn't lie in eviction court or sue. In front of me were all 18 reports, and we went over each one, detailing the time, date, who called, and apartment number. I read out each line, telling them to tell me what they felt was false and what was true. They admitted to everything except the racial terms. I reminded them that each report was accurate, stating that the tenants in the said apartment were playing loud music, but they were claiming the comments about race were false. About the 7th report, the wife caught on to what was happening and started to complain that I was dragging it out. I calmly reminded her that this was my time, and she had ample opportunity to object or ask me questions, but only after I was done. We went through the rest of the reports, and they could not build a defense. They tried to claim that we were choosing immigrants over Americans, which didn't go over well, given that the property manager was an immigrant herself. After a few more racial remarks, the property manager had enough and said guilty, informing them that the eviction paperwork would be processed with the courts the next day. They were given 14 days to vacate, and from what I heard, the judge gave them 30 until they called him a racial name. I called the nice Asian couple and let them know that they didn't have to worry anymore because we would no longer respond to calls about their apartment until the eviction came through and the bad tenants left. They were welcome to call anytime if they needed help or had an issue. In conclusion, as a security officer, we often want to help but are limited by laws or property management rules. It was nice to do some good and get some revenge on behalf of the Asian couple. The racist couple got what they deserved, and justice was served. It's important to stand up against racism and discrimination, even in small ways like this. The next story is titled "Manager Tried Throwing Me Under the Bus, so I Showed Everyone Her Incompetence." I recently resigned from a toxic workplace as a data analyst at a startup. It was promising at the start, but not long after I noticed many red flags, including the fact that my manager had absolutely no data analysis or management experience prior to being promoted. How can you manage analysts without knowing basic Excel functions? I ignored those red flags and trusted her leadership because I liked the company's goals. Little did I know this would be the worst decision ever. I basically did all the work for the team for the whole year I was there. When I ran the numbers for reporting and analysis of team performance, she always asked me to dumb it down so she can present it to high-level management. I thought everything was going well because I only got good feedback from her and the rest of the team. About a month ago, a coworker who I don't get along with made a complaint about me which was absolutely untrue. Manager believed it without investigating and all of a sudden I was placed on a PIP. She spouted all types of lies to HR, and when I refuted those claims with written evidence, they doubled down and started gaslighting me. "You're just too negative." I refused to sign and was threatened with termination, so I complied and started building a case against them. I knew she was doing the PIP to terminate me as she looked for internal candidates to replace me in secret because she was dumb enough to set the meeting up beside me. Once I signed my contract for a new job, I did basically duck all and started working from home. Before my resignation, she asked me to do some reporting for her, so I ran the numbers and sent her the raw data, told her where the files were located and that she can analyze the data and make the presentation herself. Since she's the data analyst manager, she should know how to do it. She tried reporting me for that but ultimately backfired because they asked her if the work that I did was actually wrong, and was forced to admit she didn't know what she was looking at. Everything else in the team was questioned and I believe they are now being audited by an external investigator. Credibility destroyed. I'm now working for a manager who is competent and has clear goals for the team, but that was a hell of a ride. Small win against toxic management, but a win is a win. The next story is titled "You Do Need to Be Physically Present When Your Daughter is Swimming in the Pool." A very good friend of mine recently got on a plane with her 3 boys, 8, 9, and 10, by herself to visit with grandma for a month over summer vacation. I was on transport duty because driving to and from the airport is a young man's game, and also I love spending time with my homies. There was an accidentally on purpose scheduling issue, namely my friend wanted a day in a hotel to recuperate from the flight with her 3 boys before her mom starts driving her insane. Husband is coming up in a few weeks because he just started a new job and can't just be like, back in a month. So I snatch all 4 people and luggage from the airport and give them a lift to the hotel. All 3 boys are bouncing off the walls and my friend just needs a nap. So, hotel pool time. She's posted up under an umbrella and is dead to the world. I'm in the pool with the boys. We started off playing Marco Polo and then had to get creative once other folks were in the pool as well. Eventually we settled on a game called, Not Done Yet. Basically I'm standing on one side of the steps out of the pool, and when the boys feel like it they try and leave the pool. I decide if they're done or not yet using a complicated examination process that amounts to picking the kid up, giving them a bit of a shake, faking a big sniff, say, "Not done yet," and yeet them back into the pool. Obviously if someone's waterlogged or actually wants out I won't stop them, but typically there's giggling and a bit of a cue for inspection so the game continues. I get a workout, they get tired out, everybody wins. Then a new player enters the playing field in the form of a very sweet-looking girl, approximately 6 years old, wearing water wings. She asks if she can play too. I say of course she can, but she needs to ask whoever is watching her first so I know it's okay with everyone. She says, "Okay," and exits the pool. I'm keeping an eye on where she's going so I can smile and give the "I'm not a creep" wave to whoever's minding the kid. Only she doesn't run to one of the adults on the lounge chairs, she runs back into the hotel dripping wet. She disappears inside and comes back down about 5 minutes later and says, "Mommy says it's okay." Only she's not the type of kid who lies without batting an eye and is obviously fibbing. I ask if she really did and the little girl says, well, Mommy was busy so I think it's okay." It's at this point that the proverbial record scratches and my inner monologue says, "What?" I summon the oldest of the boys from the waterborne shenanigans and ask him to go wake up his mom so she can keep an eye on things for a minute. I need to go take care of something. While he's bearding the dragon in her den, I crouch down and tell the little girl, "We need to go inside and find an adult because it's not okay that you're in the pool all by yourself, okay? You didn't do anything wrong, but you've got some growing to do before you can be in the pool all by yourself, okay?" At this point oldest homie has awoken the mom and she's now looking at me with a "what the crap" look on her face. I mouth, "Later," at her and then take the little girl's hand and bring her to the concierge desk of the hotel. I explain the situation with the little girl to the concierge, whose face goes from confusion to pained before giving the girl a smile and thanking me for bringing this to his attention. Concierge guy takes responsibility for the girl and I go back out to the pool to explain what had happened to my friend. She was livid on the little girl's behalf, but mostly just wanted to resume her nap. Conveniently at that time middle homie had gotten out of the pool and was making faces at us while we were talking. I told friend to get some sleep, I'll watch the boys. Then middle homie got spear tackled back into the water because actions have consequences. Maybe 20 minutes to half an hour later once I was starting to run out of steam I sensed a disturbance in the force. A rather irate woman wearing a blouse that was inside out was dragging the little girl from before out to the pool area and demanding to know who told her she couldn't swim. The little girl who was now silent with tears on her cheeks and a pathetically deflated water wing pointed at me. I was instructed to get my ass out of the pool and explain myself. Why on earth was it so hard to watch an extra child while she got some adult time to herself? Why did I insist on ruining her first chance to get away from it all in months? Her little girl is an angel and is no trouble to watch, blah blah blah. I explained that it wasn't a good idea to leave a little one in a pool with no adult supervision, pointing to a number of signs about no lifeguard on duty, all children must be accompanied by an adult, etc. etc. Inside out lady is getting steadily more belligerent, explaining like I'm slow that her daughter knows how to swim and was wearing floaties and would have been fine. She's getting more and more in my face, trying to act like I'm just the worst for ruining everything. And then player 3 enters the fight, it's my friend, and she's fresh out of fluffs to give. She starts reading Inside Out Lady the riot act, demanding to know how she could be so stupid and irresponsible and how dare she try and act like I'm the bad guy here. Inside Out Lady opens her mouth to reply and just gets steamrolled. "Just look at your daughter, see what you've done," appeared to finally get through to the woman, because she looks down at her daughter, then back up to my friend. There's a flicker of shame on her face, and then it's all rage. And she swung. I am not ashamed to admit that stepping between those two without backup seemed like a poor life choice. I stopped the boys before they could get caught in the crossfire, told them to take a step back, and when several hotel employees came out to break up the fight I stepped in. I grabbed my friend and pulled her back, while 2 guys from the hotel grabbed the other woman. The combatants are separated and the police are called. Myself and my friend are back at her lounge chair with a large first aid kit the hotel staff gave us while the boys hover and make sure mom's okay. She's sporting a magnificent shiner from that first punch and a couple other scrapes and bruises but mostly seems livid that she got cold clocked like that. Police arrive and get the story from everyone even tangentially involved. We wind up being asked to provide contact information to the police. My friend declines a checkover by an EMT, saying she's fine, just sore. The story Inside Out lady provided didn't match up at all with what the hotel cameras showed, and she got some shiny bracelets put on her before getting shoved in the back of a squad car. My friend said she would be delighted to press charges for assault and was told the police would be in touch. Once the police were satisfied, it was definitely time to retreat to the hotel room. I got dressed and left for the evening after making sure everybody was okay, and on the way out I asked one of the front desk folks what happened with the woman and her daughter. The woman was arrested and the girl's father came to get her. They couldn't give me any more information than that. Hope she's okay. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.